Good afternoon, everyone. It's time for a check-in on our topic of confronting the false concept of race. And I believe I indicated and promised you that we were going to talk about bananas and ask the question, did you know, do you know that you have fewer genes than a banana? We're looking at a little bit more on how science exposes the lie of racism. Science shows us that the concept is, in fact, a lie. We're looking at science, we're looking at the scripture, and we're showing how this is a lie. So, about a half a century ago, it was estimated that the number of human genes was in the millions. Well, they've backed it down a bit, and we're down to about 20,000. And we know now, for example, that bananas with their 30,000 genes have 50% more genes than we do. Bananas have more genes than a human being, and I'm not talking about blue genes. It's true. Check it out. It's about organization and function, folks. This marvelous creation of our God is amazing. Now, talking about how science exposes the lie of race and looking at human beings. Well, you cannot tell from a person's DNA whether they are black, red, yellow, or white. That's the truth of the matter. Racism has to be taught. And I would not expect you to think in terms of the social constructs of race in the way that a citizen of Japan would think, or like someone in Brazil or in India. But let me ask you this. Do you think that an Irishman, an Irish person, do you think that they are of another race? Prior to the Civil War, that is exactly what people in this country thought. But the color line soon took care of that. Jim Crow and the one-drop laws, and by the way, by those laws, I would be classified as black according to those old laws because I have African ancestors who are of African descent. And I've experienced some issues related to that for sure. Well, I've had some moments related to the fact that I turn pretty brown in the summertime, and I've been mistaken for a Mexican who was breaking into houses. I've had a moment right here in Topeka where a young man threw my box of tacos through the drive-through window and right into my lap and said, "Here you go, Chief." I've had some experiences with that, but not to the degree that many people do. I know this for a fact. But I have a little bit of empathy with that. We have all kinds of things with our culture. We have quantum blood requirements for Native American citizenship, the use of terms like Caucasian and Negroid, the invention of the white race, other Satan-infused poison darts of our shared cultural heritage. We have been taught to accept that there are races and that the basis for race is skin color. But that is not true. Race, in fact, is not real. Ethnicity is. But ethnicity has no genetic basis in reality, but is rather something that is imposed by social experience. Molecular anthropologists are often asked if DNA markers can tell what race you are. The short answer is no. Mitochondrial DNA and Y haplogroups. Mitochondria is on your X chromosome and Y is on your Y chromosome. So if you are a woman, you have two X chromosomes. If you are a man, you have an X and a Y. And they can look at these and they can tell from which continent your matrilineal and patrilineal ancestors came. And if you live in the Americas, autosomal mapping can tell what fraction of your ancestors came from Africa, what fraction came from Europe, and what fraction were Native Americans, but no DNA can tell your race. And I was using the term fractions, and I'll say a little bit more about that, but this is based on the algorithms that the various DNA companies use. We've all seen those commercials. We've seen the pie charts and all of that sort of thing. Here's what I want to say about that. Those percentages are not reflecting real numbers, but they are derived from algorithms, computed calculations of the frequencies of certain genetic markers. I'm not talking about genes, but markers that take a ride along with genes, tag along, which are compared with those contained within your autosomal DNA. Cellular, we're talking, not determined by the X or the Y chromosome. And the percentages do not fully represent all ethnic groups within a category. Only by more extensive and deeper analysis will the various groups be represented. And if the company you are dealing with has no data on a particular ethnic group, which you very well may know is in your ancestry, that ethnicity will not be represented in your results if the company has no comparative data for that group. You've seen the commercials about the man who thought he was Irish, but found out he was German, so he traded in his tartan for some lederhosen. This type of thinking has its basis in biological determinism, which has been proven to be scientifically false. Now, the appeal, which I fully understand has to do with buried ethnic identities in the culture of the USA, leaves people longing for answers, and I understand that. And there's a lot more to say about that. And then there's the epigenetic memory category, and why the woman wanted to start dressing in the manner of the African tribe, which most predominates her ancestry, etc. I mean, people that have strong African descent, they also usually don't have a story because it was not, they were robbed of that story. Slaves were numbers in a record. They weren't, nothing was said about where they came from, what their true names were, things like that. So there's a lot going on that people want to understand. But my only point here is that by looking at your DNA, race is not determined by doing that. When we talk about skin color is determined by the interaction of so many different genes working together, the same interactions that are present in every ethnic group, with such a wide degree of variation that it is impossible to attribute skin color to race. Unless you are an albino, you are actually some shade of brown. This is why it would be better to be calling me faded brown or light brown rather than white. And from a biological frame of reference, the term in terms of skin color, you have to start with brown before you can have black or white. There are components of your DNA which have been termed genetic markers, but these are not unique to ethnic populations either. You might be much surprised to learn what genetic markers are present within your genome. There is greater and deeper and more technical discussion which could be entered into here, but suffice it to say that there are certainly no race genes, and there are black people, so-called, living in these United States with overwhelming distribution of Caucasian, so-called, genetic markers, and conversely, white people sharing a significance of shared markers with populations of people who have never left Africa. This is also why I say interracial marriage is a biological impossibility. Like my father is fond of saying, and like his mother before him used to say, there were only 8 people on the ark. And like my cousin Marvin Goings, the Lakota Sioux would say in his native tongue, Mitakuye Oyasin, we are all related. That's all for today. Next Wednesday, we'll check in with another one of these, and thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and share. Thank you very much. Bye for now.